What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Friday Slate preview. Before we get started, though, I do want to just start off with a little bit of fun. We normally get a little serious on this stream, and we got plenty of time to cover the slate. There's a game with a 247 total, so we'll have plenty of time to cover the slate. Fear not. I just wanted to show you something that I found was pretty hilarious, and to give people a little more chance to roll in here. I saw this on YouTube or on Twitter, and I just had I'm not even a Knicks fan. Obviously, I'm a diehard Celtics fan. This was just hilarious. So, with that, let me know if the volume's good. You can hear it. But I present Les Knicks.
When it hosted the playoffs and their games inviting, there was a time the Knicks were kind, and the season was a song, and the song was exciting. There was a time, and it all went wrong. I dreamed a dream of teams gone by, when Oak and Mace patrolled the middle. I dreamed when Riley was our guy, instead of the other Mike Miller. Then I was young and unafraid. We took the Bulls to games of 7. There was no bail that would be paid. No chanting, Jimmy, won't you sell them? But the coaches all get fired, and the loss is always mounting as they tear your hope apart, as they turn this team to shame. We spent a summer flying high. 'Twas 94 against the Rockets. Starks, he bricked a million times. He wouldn't stop, it was insane. And still I dream he's on my team. 20 years and still no point guards. But there are dreams that
So, like I said, that was pretty funny. At least I thought it was. I will grab the link to this right now, and I will pop it in the chat. There you go. That's how you can watch that again. I just found that really funny. I thought, the singing was really good. And anyone who's a Hamilton fan knows that, like, they actually did a good job of, like, kind of integrating it into the song. It was really well done. So I wanted to give that the appropriate respect it definitely deserved. Okay, we've got 10 games on the slate today. And definitely there is some injury news. Oops, I'm on the wrong account. We can fix that. Let's go ahead and log in to the correct account. All right, stream account. Now we go. This looks a little better. So, obviously, there's definitely a lot of injury news today. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this on, make sure I have all the up-to-date injury information here. So we've got a lot of injury news, obviously. They're not that far out of the playoffs. They're 4 games out, I think, 4 or 5 games out. So they're not out of it yet. As to why Nurkic is going to play, the question from the chat was, why is Nurkic going to start playing March 15th? They're only 4 games out, so they're not done yet. So injury news that we're looking at: Luka Doncic is questionable. Trae Young is questionable. Ayton is doubtful. Oladipo questionable. Brogdon doubtful. Warren questionable. Reddish probable. Robinson, Finney-Smith questionable, and then other guys that really don't matter. So let's just go ahead and get started first with Atlanta at Washington. 245.5 total. This was a 247.5 total here just a little while ago. Washington's favored by 3 now because Trae Young's questionable. I mean, Trae Young's been questionable the last 2 games with this flu-like symptoms that he's played. So I'm going to assume he's going to play. Thank you very much, Brian, for the follow, and thank you very much, Buck Cousin Gaming, for the Twitch Prime subscription. Really do appreciate it. So again, just looking through this, it's hard for me to pass on Bradley Beal here. 245.5 total. I mean, we've just seen him in the last few games chuck up 30 shots, and against the Hawks, it's just tough for me to kind of see how that doesn't happen again in this spot. Obviously, I would much rather this spot if Trae Young plays, but you know, I just think the Wizards are in such a good spot today. I mean, we look at it. The most expensive Wizard outside of Bradley Beal is 5,600 Davis Bertans. Like, it's a 245 total. It's just inevitable that some of these guys are just going to show up on winning teams. Thank you very much, Marco, for the 10 bits. Greatly do appreciate that. So, I just can't help but feel like that there's going to be Wizards on the winning team. Now, they definitely do play a bunch of guys for sure, right? We've seen them play 8, 10 guys, up to 11 sometimes. So it's going to be a little tricky to try to figure out which one of these guys for the Wizards is going to go off. But I want to get myself some shares of Napier, Robinson, Bertans, Hashimura. I think those are the 4 that are most likely to go off. So this is definitely a team that I'm definitely very high on today. Just the totals through the roof. Troy Brown, yeah, his minutes just fluctuate a little too much for my liking. They've kind of cut him down. Scott Brooks just doesn't really like him. I think he kind of needs a change of scenery. I personally like him. I think he's a pretty good two-way guy, but it's just clear that Scott Brooks just does not like him. So I think they're trying to figure out what they got in Jerome Robinson. Drew the start last game, played pretty poorly, but still played 26 minutes. If he plays better, I just think he's going to get into the 30s. So it's kind of these 4 up here with Bradley Beal that I'm most interested in. For the Hawks, we have a question in the chat. Can Reddish spot any good if Trae Young is out? Already getting some of him. I think it is a good spot for him. If or without Trae Young. So, you know, the Hawks have quietly started to cut down their rotation a little bit. Like, they're playing their guys a bunch of big minutes. Early on, they were just playing a ton of everyone. But recently, they've really kind of just let their 5 young guys just play a ton of minutes. So, you know, Cam Reddish has been playing some good minutes here. This game got out of hand. But, you know, Herter's played good minutes. Hunter's played good minutes. So they've been playing their guys minutes. And obviously, at a 245.5 total, with or without Trae Young, It's going to be a great spot. Obviously, it's better if Trae Young plays. The offense just flows better when he's on the floor. Trae Young, 9,900 in this spot, would definitely be one of those guys that I would be trying to get on teams as well if he plays. I think he will play personally, but you never know until we get those injury reports. So this obviously, we spent a lot of time on this game, but this is obviously one of the most important games of the way. Do you ever talk about over/under ATS picks based off of DFS info? B Cousin Gaming asks, and that's a good question. I am not a betting professional, right? So I have opinions based off of the data, but unless it's just something that super stands out, I don't mention it because it's not my bread and butter per se. Like, I don't want to pretend to be an expert in something I'm not. But if something does like stand out and against all my numbers, like, I'll mention it in passing. But it's not something I'm just like, hey, like, this is a good spot on a day-to-day basis. It normally would just have to be something that I think is just completely wrong to do it. Do I see anything like that on this slate? No, not really. Not at first glance. Another good question from the chat. How much do you care about individual matchups versus specific players or defenders? Depends what the team is. So if the team does a defensive switching scheme, so let's just say you're playing the Boston Celtics that switch just about everything, I really don't care because you're not going to spend as much time on those guys. But if you play a team that doesn't switch, and I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head that doesn't switch a lot, and I can't think of one for sure. But like, if let's just say you were facing a team that doesn't switch, more than I would care, right? Let's just say you're a stretch four against a guy who doesn't like to leave the post. So, for example, stretch fours against Sabonis is something that I play a lot of because Sabonis is just too slow to cover the corner. And so if there's a guy who likes to shoot corner threes against Sabonis, I play them just about every time. So that's a good example of one that I definitely focus on specific matchups for. Spurs at Brooklyn. Brooklyn 3-point favorites here. I'm really surprised DeMar DeRozan just hasn't had a great game since Aldridge has been out. Like, all the numbers would indicate that he's going to have these big games soon. He just hasn't. He hasn't taken the shots. He hasn't had the usage rate. I can't figure out why. They're only 3.5 games out of the playoffs. It's not like they're way out of it. So I'm really surprised by these low usage rates, to be honest. Like, I feel like he should be having a bigger role here. The price is getting to the point where it's hard for me to pass. Like, pace up spot against Brooklyn. No rim protection there to speak of. Like, it's a good spot. So, for sure. Brian, we'll get there. I promise. We will get to the Magic. The Magic are one of my favorite teams. Wrote them up in the primer and the DK cheat sheet. We will definitely get to the Magic. The Magic are definitely one of the best spots on the slate tonight. Other options here, like Trey Lyles is priced up to the point where even I have to take a pass. 5,100 is too much. DeJounte Murray, for me, it's always tough to play a guy that I know can't get to 38 minutes. Like, in no scenario can DeJounte Murray get to 38 minutes. And that's just tough for me to play those type of guys on large slates. Like, they just don't play him with Derek White together. And if Derek White gets hot, it could cost DeJounte Murray minutes. I can't get there. I just can't get there. He can get to 34. I think 34 is a stretch. Like, because unless Derek White plays really bad, Derek White's going to play 20. And if he plays 20, then DeJounte's really kind of capped at 28, 29. So I don't really see it, to be honest. Maybe against Brooklyn they'll play them together a couple minutes, but they just don't play them together. Like, it's under 100 minutes for the entire season still. So I can't get all excited about that. These other wings are okay, but there's just nothing that I feel like super confident in terms of the Sacramento side. I'm sorry, San Antonio side. Yeah, they've been talking about playing those two together more all season, and then they just don't. The price on Karis LeVert at 7,000 is pretty intriguing to me. I think the price was interesting against Memphis, but obviously, the back-to-back after that overtime game, they just really no-showed. Think that LeVert's a good option here. Dinwiddie's a fine option as well if you want to play somewhere in this game. I don't think there's any must-haves. the Taurean Prince is going to break a slate at some point soon. And you have to wonder if it would have been this game against Memphis had he gotten more minutes. 19 shots is a lot for Taurean Prince. This is a good spot. The price is cheap. The minutes can get there if he plays well. So that's the type of guy that's going to break a slate soon. If you're playing a bunch of teams, I consider Taurean Prince something a little bit different. Another good question from the chat. How many minutes is your minimum on a slate of this size? 26 is probably the lowest I would go. And that player would have to be pretty darn cheap. So, I can't get to Trey Lyles personally. He's too expensive for me. I just echo that in the chat. I can't play White just because of the McConnell thing. I'm not the McConnell thing. I just can't play White just because of the minutes restriction. Like, he just can't get enough minutes for my taste. Okay, let's move on to Oklahoma City at the Knicks. I have to be honest, there is not one play in this game I have any interest in whatsoever. So, I guess you could talk me into a Bobby Portis if Mitchell Robinson sits, but I'm not wild about that. This is a game that's just basically a total cross-off for me. Utah at the Celtics. Utah, I mentioned this last show, but this is just a team that is going to be priced right the whole way. Like, they're just priced right. Everyone knows the minutes they're going to play. The pricing's all right. It's just there's going to be no edge on Utah the rest of the way. Sure, Mitchell can go put up a ceiling game at any point, but I mean that's what you're basically chasing at this point is ceiling games. So I probably won't play much Utah the rest of the way. For the Boston Celtics, it's Jason Tatum, 1.4 fantasy points per minute here. I'm gonna need all the Jason Tatum minutes I could find against Utah. So Jason Tatum, even at $10,000, it is definitely a strong play on this slate. Let's see what else we've got. That's really it for me on the Celtics. Marcus Smart, 6,500. Kind of a bit too expensive for me, but it's his birthday. I could see it. It's a good matchup against Utah. Tatum or AD straight up? I gotta be honest. The answer might be Tatum. Like, I know that sounds a little insane, but it might be Tatum. Indiana at Chicago. The big news here, of course, is that Brogdon is doubtful. Warren is questionable. Oladipo is questionable. TJ McConnell is going to be the chalk here. I think it's pretty good chalk. I don't think he's going to shoot 7 for 13 from the field again. But I also think in a competitive game against the Bulls, he'll play more minutes. So TJ McConnell, I think, is pretty good chalk. He's a pretty good usage guy. He does everything. He can contribute in all the categories. He's not just like a scorer or something like that. So I think TJ McConnell is pretty good chalk on this slate. Other than that, I don't mind any of the guys who are questionable if they play. Warren or Depot, I think, would be solid options if they play. But if Oladipo, Warren, and Brogdon all sit, trying to decide if you can play Aaron Holiday and TJ McConnell together. I think on a slate this big, I would lean no. But if they all sit, then maybe. I would have to run the numbers. I can't say I've ran. I projected TJ Warren in when I did it, so I didn't run into that situation. But I would have to think about it. I think the answer would probably be no, but I would have. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. I would have to check everything else. I'm just not touching Oladipo. Question in the chat about Oladipo. Like, we have this. I'm going to go on a little bit of a side tangent. As DFS players, we sometimes play guys based on what they are not currently. So last year, for example, Gordon Hayward was chalk for months, right? As the price kept dropping, people kept playing Gordon Hayward because it's Gordon Hayward. But it's that Gordon Hayward isn't the Gordon Hayward that's playing on the floor right now. It's a much watered down version. Like, he's coming off an injury. He's still clearly not 100%. That player isn't this automatic value at 5,500. So I fade this type of player every time. I made the mistake last year with Hayward, and I quickly realized that it was just a mistake to be doing that. because you're not doing it based on the numbers. You're doing it based on reputation, and reputation doesn't get you fantasy points. So, thank you, Redhead, for your 4th month of its subscription. I really do appreciate that. Turner just doesn't really have the ceiling for me, so that kind of it on the Pacers. For the Bulls, Zach LaVine's still out because they're tanking, so Kobe White's going to be a guy that scores a bunch, but everyone else is priced right. Everyone's on a minutes restriction. I really don't think I need to do anything super crazy. Kobe White he's finally the guy that I thought he was going to be the whole season. Like, this is what I expected the whole season from Kobe White. I played him a bunch early on in the season, and he got me there a couple times, which really all it did was lead me to chase Kobe White for like a month and a half. But I mean, finally, this is the type of guy I thought we were going to get all season. So I'm perfectly fine playing him at this price. I think he's going to take the shots, and I think he's good enough, bluntly, to take this much work. All right, that's it for this game. I don't see any other questions. So let's move on to the main event of the slate, the Orlando Magic at the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is the best spot of the night because Evan Fournier is out, which gives 3 guys really the biggest boosts: Nikola Vucevic, Terrence Ross, and the one who I think might be sneaky. I haven't looked at any ownership, so maybe it's not. Is Markelle Fultz, 5,400. He's the big winner when you look at points per minute and usage with Evan Fournier off the floor. And I don't think it's like the first person you go to. I don't think like Markelle Fultz is the guy you think about. But you think about this matchup against D'Angelo Russell and the fact that the Minnesota Timberwolves have no rim protection whatsoever. It actually is a really nice Markelle Fultz spot. I'm not a Fultz guy. I don't play Fultz. But I like Fultz a lot in this spot. Fultz not sneaky? Yeah, I figured he wouldn't be, but I was hoping. I don't think he'll be mega chalk at least, right? DJ Augustine at the min, I think, is a very interesting option as well. He plays about 20 to 24 minutes in spots like this. He could even steal a few more. So yeah, I think DJ Augustine at the min is kind of like the sneaky option. Like if Ross gets in foul trouble, if Fultz gets in foul trouble, if Ennis gets in foul trouble, kind of think the winner there is going to be DJ Augustine. Although Michael Carter-Williams is back, and that definitely does kill some of the DJ Augustine usage. But 3K, if you're playing a bunch of teams, I definitely wouldn't mind some DJ Augustine. So how many Magic are too many? So on a smaller slate, I would say like you could play 3 or 4. On this slate in particular, I don't think I'm going to get above 2. Maybe I could get to 3 if I played like DJ Augustine, Ross, and Vooch. Maybe. But that probably still is 1 player too many. So I would probably really try to cap it at 2 Magic. For the Timberwolves, as UNC just mentioned, the first thing I was going to mention is Jordan McLaughlin has quietly been picking up some extra minutes. He's been playing well. Even in those games he was starting, he played well. And it really kind of has killed the ceiling on Malik Beasley's minutes. He's definitely still playing a ton of minutes. He's still a really good option at 5,900. But if he's not going to play 38 to 39 minutes a bunch, it's going to be really tough for him to hit the ceiling. But I like the player, so I definitely would still say like he's in play. D'Angelo Russell hasn't been playing like a massive ceiling in minutes because honestly, the Timberwolves really want to lose. So for me, it's really kind of Malik Beasley, Naz Reid, who can't miss a shot lately, or bust. So I guess you could play Guancho, but meh. This isn't really the world's best Guancho spot. Actually, maybe it is a better Guancho spot than I'm giving it credit for. Guancho against Aaron Gordon. That might not be as bad as I made it out to be. Aaron Gordon's not exactly a guy who loves to get out to the three-point line. He's not Sabonis, but he's not exactly thrilled to get out there. But man, Guancho might be in a better spot than him. Actually, Guancho went off against... Did Aaron Gordon play this game? Hold on, let me look. Hold on a minute. Let's I'm glad I at least took a second to rethink that. Let's see. Aaron Gordon did play that game, and Guancho went bonkers. Interesting. Yeah, I thought about it and I had second thoughts. I was like, this actually might be a better spot than I'm giving it credit for. Yeah, I think Guancho is sneaky in tournaments. The more I think about that, Aaron Gordon is not a guy who doesn't like to get up to the 3-point line. So yeah, I actually am going to take that back. This is actually a really sneaky Guancho spot. He took 8. The key number to me is the 8 3-point attempts. Like, that just shows to me that Aaron Gordon wasn't just running out to the 3-point line. So yeah, I actually think this is a sneaky Guancho spot the more I think about it. Naz Reid's okay. Like, he's not playing massive minutes, which is probably the thing that concerns me the most. It's just that, like, he's an awesome fantasy point per minute player, but, like, even, like, 4 bad minutes when you're only playing 25 can really just hurt you. Yeah, I agree with you, UNC. The James Johnson ceiling game is coming. Like, it's definitely coming. This is actually a much better game stack than I think I gave it credit for. Now that I'm kind of thinking through this a little bit with Naz Reid and Guancho, this is actually probably a better game stack than I thought. If you're gonna game stack this, you can probably play 3 Magic. I'm gonna take that take back. So if you play Naz Reid, Guancho, you can definitely run back 3 Magic guys. So yeah, this is actually a better game stack than I thought it was gonna be. I hate trusting Ryan Saunders rotations, though. Like, the moment I trust Ryan Saunders rotations is the moment he goes and does something really stupid. So, fair warning, it is Ryan Saunders. He can troll you at any point. Miami at the Pelicans here, 233 total, a 1-point spread here. We'll start with the Heat. The Heat are still the same team. They're all priced the same. No one's really hurt. You kind of know what you're going to get. So you kind of just got to kind of figure out if there's anyone really worth playing. I don't really see anyone personally that's worth playing here. Kind of think they're all price rights. In terms of the Pelicans options, I'm a Drew Holiday truther, but it's just so tough. Like, there's 4 guys that could just go off at any point. It's kind of like Lonzo shooting like 70% from 3 in the last 2 games. Okay, that's sustainable. I mean, I know he's better. They changed his motion, and he's finally, like, his entire shooting motion, and he can actually shoot now, but I just, for me, it's hard because there's like 4 really good players on this team, and they can all go off at any point. It kind of reminds me of the Thunder, a team that I just don't really play anyone of when all 4 are healthy, and I kind of think it has to be the same situation here. Like, one of these guys can go off, but it's just like, which one will it be? Like, I don't know. So I saw that, but like, the point of what I said Lonzo Ball couldn't shoot coming into the league was that his shooting motion was broken. And he went to the best team in the New Orleans Pelicans, which has the best shooting coach in the league, and they completely changed the motion. So, like, the analysis was spot on. He couldn't shoot with the motion he had. He had to change it, and now he can make shots. I just can't get to Zion. I just can't get to Zion today. I can't. Herter's okay, but I can't get to Zion. Memphis at Dallas, 225 total. This game's really hard to figure out what the hell's going on until we know what Luka's status is. So I'm going to kind of just ignore Dallas for now. I mean, if Luka plays, I really don't have any interest in Dallas. If he sits, Porzingis at 9,300 becomes an option. But other than that, I just don't really play anyone from Dallas. On the Memphis side, the price on Dillon Brooks is right. He's going to eventually make some shots again. So I'm going to start playing him every day until he makes some shots. John Morant under 7K, I don't mind. But this is a team that plays like one too many guys for my taste. And on a slate this big, I'm just not going to go here anywhere else. Oh, yeah. Zion on Superjacked at 1.5 is really, really nice. I'm not sure why he's 1.5 over there. Portland at Phoenix. The big news here is that Ayton is probably going to miss, which if he misses, that makes Aaron Baines your default value. Will play 27 minutes, probably get you about 24 to 26 fantasy points. So that's the chalk option, value option of the day. Rubio and Booker are okay. The prices are up a little bit, but it's Portland. This is a 231 total. I don't mind it. I don't play Devin Booker really a whole lot, so I probably would just rather play Aaron Baines and move on. But I understand if you would want to play those guys as well. Sean, I don't think there's a correlation between the early games and how many of the top plays seems to come from them, really. I just think a lot of the teams in the East have worse defenses, so those are the higher total games. So like the Wizards and the Hawks and the Knicks and the Bulls. I just think it has more to do with the bad number of bad teams in the East, more so than just like the early versus the late games. Like when a lot of the East Coast teams are doing their West Coast swings, I find that it's the opposite situation. So why don't they play Booker? He doesn't really have a ceiling. Like without the assists with Ricky Rubio there, he has the assist rate just isn't there. He doesn't do enough to kind of hit a ceiling at 8,400. So he never makes it for me in terms of math. Yeah, Marco Rubio is on my head because of the daylight savings video he posted earlier. So it was on my head. It was actually a video. It was actually a Twitter video that got me. But he was just saying we should abolish standard time and go to daylight savings the entire time. From Portland, you know what you're going to get from Portland. They're going to play their five guys a ton, really six. If I go show you their last game, they basically just played Lillard, Whiteside, McCollum, Anthony, Ariza, and Trent the whole game. You're going to get that here. Which one of these guys goes bonkers? I have absolutely no clue. Your guess is as good as mine. But it's on a late slate, I definitely don't mind loading up on Portland. On a full slate, I can't get there. Can I talk about Cam Johnson with no Saric? Thank you, T.O., for the follow. I'm just not a Saric guy, personally. Like, I don't really see the ceiling at 5K. I would much rather play, like, Mikal Bridges if I was going to go that route, because he'll play a ton of more minutes. But even that, at 5,200 is just too expensive for my taste. Would I limit ones between... I don't even know if I'd play Check Diallo, to be honest. I would just play Aaron Baines. I wouldn't touch Check Diallo. And that's just my personal opinion. I just... Did I have a Beasley take? You might have missed it. He was kind of like my third favorite Timberwolf behind Naz Reid and Juancho. So he's okay. The question was, did I have a Malik Beasley take? Let's move on to the last game. Milwaukee at the Lakers. Look, Anthony Davis is the same price as Jason Tatum, and that feels kind of insane on one hand. On the other, like, is Anthony Davis going to get anything done against Giannis? Like, in the past, he's done okay, but it's all been free throws. I don't know. I'm worried. I mean, this is a big game. If you want to play the stars in this game and just star it up here, hope it's going to be a competitive game and they run everyone out for extra minutes, okay. But, like, if I'm playing Anthony Davis, I'm playing Giannis. Like, I'm not playing Anthony Davis without Giannis. Like, I'm pairing this up. So that's kind of a decision you got to make on which stars you want to play. But, like, I can't see a world in which I would play Anthony Davis or LeBron without Giannis. Because if they hit their ceiling, Giannis is going to hit his ceiling. Giannis is just like, he's normally limited by just the number of minutes he plays. Like, he put up 55 fantasy points in 28 minutes. Like, if he plays 35 minutes, like, watch out. Like, so for me, if I'm playing Anthony Davis, it's with Giannis every time. Other than that in this game, I just don't really see anyone that I have a ton of interest in. DiVincenzo just shot lights out last game. I'm not going to go back there. So, honestly, in this game, it's really just the studs. You know, it makes sense, too, if you look at the usage rates. You could talk me into a Chris Middleton or a Bledsoe, but, I would rather not. But if you could make the case that they're good options, I wouldn't be too upset with that. In a 3-entry max with all the min price value, do you think making one of them balanced is a good idea? No. I think it's a bad idea. There's so much value on this slate. Like, you don't get extra points for being a hero. Like, if there's so much value on a 10-game slate, right? To make balanced work, that means that all the value across 10 games has to suck. And that's just not going to happen. Right? It's just not, or the entire middle tier just has to explode. I just don't think that's going to happen enough to make that worth your time. So, no, I would not do one balanced in a 3-entry max. So, just to kind of recap, top studs, Giannis, Beal, Tatum, and AD. Those are kind of the 4 studs that I'm on today. And then for the value options, Baines, McConnell, Shaq Harrison's blah. But DJ Augustine, Williams, Dedmon, all the type of guys we talked about here. There's just so many good value options here. Not all these guys are going to bust. So I wouldn't fade all the superstars on this slate, personally. I think the superstars are too good. Like, between AD, Tatum, Beal, Giannis, and if we get Trae Young, like, I just think there's too much ceiling to pass up on all of them. Any love for Bojan and Bogdan? No, not really. They're kind of both too expensive for me. So, no interest there. But that's that. That's the slate preview for Friday. If you got any more questions, I'll answer them really quickly. Just a reminder, XFL show was done last night. I'll be posting that on YouTube when I throw this one up as well. So if you need to watch this on replay, you can go ahead and do that over at the Fantasy Cruncher YouTube channel. If you have any questions, I'll be in chat all the way through lock. And with that, guys, really appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you dealing with me being under the weather. And then for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, I know I have to do a bunch of drawings for the free FC Pro weeks. I promise you, I'm not leaving you down. If you leave a comment in the Fantasy Cruncher YouTube channel, leave your Fantasy Cruncher username, and tell me the Minnesota Timberwolf that scores the most fantasy points today. You'll be entered in a drawing for a free week of Fantasy Cruncher Pro. And I'll draw those Monday. I got to draw a bunch of them. So leave your name there if you're watching this on YouTube. And with that, I'll see you guys next time.